Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Comic Art Live. John Siuntres here from the Word Balloon Podcast. It's going to be a great day of interviews with great creators, and I'm about to introduce one of them for you right now. This is a guy who has certainly made his mark at both DC and Marvel over the years. I'm really excited to talk to him about where his career has been and where his career is going. Please welcome Mike McKone, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? How's it
Good,
going?
man. It's a pleasure. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's been a long time. We've met very briefly at cons, but I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to speak at length to you. This is a long time coming for me.
Well, it's good to be here. I'm gonna have to apologize because the gardeners have just arrived, and I can I can hear them blowing leaves or something. So
all right, no problem.
It's not a bowel problem. It's gardeners outside.
Well, I'll tell you, I can't hear it right now. At least,
Okay,
so yeah, don't be freaked. Hey, don't kid yourself. Amazon likely will buzz my door at some point within the hour, so I'm just kind of counting on it. But but hey, Mike, I'll get the boring part out of the way, but I do want to know what inspired you to get into comics, and how did you break in?
Oh my goodness, what inspired me? I loved comics when I was a kid. Really loved comics when I was a kid, and I could draw a little bit. I was a little bit better than my friends, just a teeny bit. So it was a way to kind of get attention. I come from a small mining town just outside Newcastle in England, and it's a lot of heavy industry, a lot of blue collar jobs, steel workers and shipbuilding and coal miners. So any excuse not to do any of that.
I don't blame you.
And I took my portfolio to a convention in London, and Dick Giordano, who was editor-in-chief at DC at the time, this was in 1988.
Wow.
Took a look at it, said I could probably get work, and a couple of weeks later, Andy Helfer called and told me he needed an issue of Justice League drawing, and I didn't have to think on it too long.
That's outstanding, man. So yeah, that was the McGiffin DeMatteis era.
Yeah, Maguire had just left. That's why they were looking for a penciler to draw an issue. And Andy Helfer was a mensch, as he would say. And he kept me in work for a couple of years until I kind of found my feet and started getting offers elsewhere. But yeah, right place at the right time, really.
That's awesome. Who were your inspirations? Because, I mean, especially stepping into Justice League International and Kevin Maguire, that was beyond the action and stuff. The facial stuff was very expressive. And I wonder if, if Andy wanted you to follow in that vein, or was he happy with, what you were doing?
He didn't give me a great deal of direction. He was kind of notorious for being creator friendly. So he didn't push me in that direction, but Kevin was so good at that stuff, and the stories were built around the interaction between the characters that it just. I'm not saying I was anywhere near good enough to emulate what Kevin was doing, but it was certainly something to go for. I mean, to this day, I'm still struck every time I see Kevin posting something on Twitter or whatever, how good he is at that stuff.
It's funny. Just a few weeks ago, we had a bit of a Bwahaha reunion. As I call him, the J.D. Salinger of comics, Keith Giffen. You know exactly what I'm talking about right away. Yeah, he didn't show up, but I had Mark on. I had Mark on and Kevin, and they had great memories and stuff. Now, do you mostly work by full script, or have there been opportunities where it has been more of a pure collaboration?
Well, I stopped drawing interiors about five or 6 years ago now. And one of the reasons I stopped was because comics had kind of moved to full script, and it just wasn't as much fun anymore.
Sure.
Most of my kind of interiors career was spent Marvel style, where you'd get a very detailed plot outline and kind of have more to do with the telling of the story. Which isn't to say that full script doesn't demand those kind of skills, but it you seem less involved somehow when you're working from a full script, and it just it was time to not do it anymore.
No, I understand that. I am going to ask you a few questions about that era. It's because you're so accomplished and you did so many amazing things. Before we get to like the hot period that I saw you really in the 2000s. Tell me about because you were working through the boom and the bust of
Yeah,
the 90s, and I'm really interested like how that high and low period impacted you.
it didn't. To be
Okay.
honest, it's weird because we've been in lockdown for the last 9 months. It's
Sure.
really felt like my life was in all the way through the 90s and the early 2000s, where pretty much every hour of the day was spent drawing comics at home. There's not a lot of conventions in England then or now.
Sure.
So um, it that period just didn't affect me at all. I wasn't aware of it. It was pre-internet, so I wasn't aware there was a boom until there was a bust, and I didn't realize there was a bust until I got a letter from Marvel Comics saying they were going into bankruptcy. And I fortunately I kept getting work. I had very little interaction with any other creators, and the only interaction I had with editorial was with the editors I was working for. So it kind of just passed me by. I was in my own
Interesting.
little bubble in England. So yeah. I wish I had more stories to tell.
No, but even to be honest, that's A, great, and B, that's a different answer than I think I normally get. So that's fantastic. You did so much with Jeff Johns over the years of Teen Titans and certainly into the big Green Lantern saga with the Red Lanterns and such and everything. I want to talk about the Titans for a second, just because I really love that run. And so did you design modern look Connor Kent, in terms of the t-shirt and jeans and that thing, or like what exactly was your involvement in terms of Connor's look or creation?
Yeah, they wanted a new look for him, and I turned in a bunch of different designs that were kind of your standard superhero stuff. And somebody along the way, I don't know if it was me or Jeff, said, "Why don't we just put him in a t-shirt?" And I was like, "Well, that's easier for me to draw." Because the designs I was turning in had the S symbol on the shoulders and
Okay.
kind of piping everywhere. And I honestly can't remember whose idea it was at this point. I've got a terrible memory anyway. So asking me to remember something from 20 years ago, I could tell you a fascinating story, but there's no guarantee it would be true.
Well, it's a great era of the Titans, and it brought me back to the book hard, and I really did appreciate those stories. Also, the future story of them as adults, one of my favorites as well. And again, just slight alterations on the designs because these are legacy heroes now wearing the costumes and taking the mantle.
Well, I've done I did do quite a bit of that kind of redesign. I did a book called Big Town at Marvel, which was kind of the future version of the characters. I did Exiles for a couple of years, where every issue I would change the costumes.
I want to talk about X-Files. Absolutely. Yes, it did.
Jim Calafiore was drawing the issues that I wasn't drawing, and I would drive him crazy because I'd never tell him I was changing the costumes. And Jim's one of my best friends, so it was more than amusing to get him irate as possible.
That's cool. And of course, you're working with Judd Winnick on Exiles, and Judd, also a great cartoonist as well as a writer as well. And we're certainly seeing that with his current work, with his kids' books, Hilo and stuff.
Yeah.
So as an artist that also wrote, how was it different getting? Did you work Marvel style then with Judd in terms of Exiles?
No, I think it was. I would call it, I guess, full script, but the panel descriptions, as I remember, were very brief. So there was kind of a transition period where it would be plots, but with page numbers. And to be honest, one of the first things I did when I got plots like that was take out the page numbers. But Judd is such a good cartoonist that he understands pacing, and he had the beats down anyway, so it wasn't a problem. But yeah, it was a lot of fun working for him. He's endlessly creative. I think we did the book together for a couple of years, and just the amount of material he created was really impressive.
That's awesome. Are you drawing stuff for us today that we're going to be
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what yet. I've
Oh,
got the
okay.
combo set up. I think I might do a Hulk.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think we're going to raffle it for Tatiana's. Tatiana's my art rep, and
Yes.
if people sign up to her mailing list, then they'll get a chance to win it. So do you want me to start drawing now? Is that cool?
If you want, absolutely, man. Are you able to pat your head and rub your belly at the same time and talk to us while you're drawing?
Well, I do a lot of conventions, so it's a skill that I've learned to acquire. The yabbering as I draw. I'm gonna make sure everything's turned off. So
All good, buddy. Oh, we got the camera. Yeah, that's great. We can see you drawing, so that's fantastic. Lovely. There are people that are making comments, and I guess I want to throw those out there because they are inspiring some excellent, I think, discussion that we can do. John Beatty joining us. Hey, it's great to see John Beatty, the fine inker. Mike McKone was one penciler. I never got to ink, but I always wanted to, and he's saying hello.
Well, hello, John. John is, I mean, he's a legend. He's
One of the best.
One of the very best. If I live to be 1,000, I'll never be able to ink like John Beatty does.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I've had the pleasure. We hung out at Salt Lake City with Mike Seck, and I had a lot of fun. So Dre Mellon says, shout out from down under. Very nice.
Hey, Dre.
How about that?
Dre's in Brazil. Oh, sorry, Dre. No, I thought you meant someone else. Dre's a great guy. He's in Melbourne.
Oh, cool, man. That's awesome. Doesn't it suck, Mike? I mean, honestly, we talk about these other countries and stuff, and it's like, wouldn't it be nice to travel? And I'm just so bummed right now that we got to stay in our metropolitan areas. What part of the States are you in right now?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, fantastic.
It's comic book law that everyone who works in comics eventually has to live in Portland, Oregon for at least a little while. So we're going through rainy season now. It's rained for about 10 days. So even if I wanted to go outside, I'm not sure I would.
I understand, man. Don McPherson, great question, and wants me to make sure that I remember to discuss your phenomenal work on Superman with Jeff Loeb. I bought 2 pages from his first issue from him at San Diego years ago, either 2000 or 2003, he says.
I hope you got a good price.
How was that run on Superman? Honestly, I loved writing it, and I loved Loeb's writing, and I'm sure I read your issues.
Well, I think I only drew 3 issues, and I was really just warming up for Ed McGuinness.
Okay.
But it was fun. It's just one of those periods where I don't have a lot of memory of.
Okay.
When you were drawn on a monthly schedule, it's just such a crazy thing to do, to draw 12, 14, 16 hours a day. That you're literally, your nose is to the paper, all of your waking hours, and you come out the other end of it. And it's I don't know if you've ever driven anywhere, and then when you get to your destination, you think, well, I've got no recollection of how I did that. That's what a lot of comics feel like to me.
Well, I'm going to keep letting people do shout outs of your stuff. Booming Music Scene says, I became a fan of Mike with the Teen Titans Run. Very beautiful arc. And Chad, if you want to go back to the beginning there, I think Ken Lomas has a great first comment. The first book I remember seeing McKone's art in was, here's a big event book, The Final Night, the crossover, Parallax, great issue.
Yeah, Ron Mars. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. That was
yeah, tell us about that. Because again, I mean, was that your first like big event that you were involved in?
Ooh,
I know I keep hitting the memory button with you, and you're like,
I think so. I remember what I remember about that is that I think I'd gone to do some work at Acclaim. I did 6 issues at Acclaim just after I bought my first apartment, and there was some crazy scheduling problem, and I didn't work for about 3 months while they were getting scripts together. And I think I went scurrying back to DC with mortgage payments looming and vowing never to work for anyone but the big 2 again.
That's outstanding.
I
Well,
pretty much stuck to that.
I can appreciate that. Well, let me ask about what you're doing lately. Aren't you in the midst of a create your own project?
I am. I've been slowly kind of whittling away at it for about a year, and I'm 33 whole pages into it. But it's taken so long. I just spent 7 days on one page on one of the, I guess, the downfalls of not having an editor or anyone to kind of crack the whip is that you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again until you get it right, or you get it as perfect as you can make it. So each page on this thing has been taking me like a minimum of 3 days, which is ridiculous. But I get one of the benefits of the pandemic is that I've had a lot of downtime. On any other given year, I do probably 20, 25 conventions. So that's a lot of travel days that I'm not having to waste. I'm spending that doing this creator own book.
Understood. I want to point everyone, as we said earlier, that there is a giveaway that Mike is offering. If you go to TDA, all capital letters, RT, tdartgallery.com. Actually, it's just lowercase. I'm gonna copy this and make sure that Chad gets it, and we will maybe put up a banner so people can go to that site and sign up for your newsletter, but also let people go in and get in the drawing to win some great Mike McKone art. I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't feel too bad about screwing it up if I'm giving it away for free.
I can appreciate that. You know, you had a unique book in recent memory, reasonably recent memory, before you stopped doing sequential art, and that was Justice League United, the Canadian team that you worked with and Jeff Lemire. Well, honestly, I think it's a great idea, and isn't it interesting? I mean, obviously, Marvel was hip to the idea of creating a Canadian team, a couple decades earlier and stuff. And I always thought that was kind of smart if it was DiDio's idea or Jeff's. I don't even know how the idea came up, but I think it was cool. And I'm sorry that it didn't have a longer run, but how was that, man?
Well, the story I heard that DiDio was at a convention in Des Moines, and he cracked a joke about having a Justice League Des Moines, and then people took him seriously for whatever reason. And then I got offered Justice League Canada, and my first thought was, what happens in Canada that warrants a superhero team? Because every time I've been to Canada, it's been the most pleasant, chill place you can imagine. But it was an opportunity to work with Jeff Lemire, who's wonderful and fantastic, and maybe the nicest person anyone could meet.
He is very nice.
Annoyingly. But he's Canadian, so it's a sliding scale.
I'm hip, man. Exactly. Seriously, I've yet to meet an angry Canadian. I hope that's positive profiling, saying that.
He might be a monster to other Canadians, but to the likes of us, he comes across very pleasant.
Absolutely, man. That's hilarious. That's fantastic. More great comments. Hey, Scott Dunbeer is watching us, the great editor, and wants to say hello. So that's pretty cool.
Scott was one of the first people connected to comics that I ever spoke with. I bought my first page of original art from Scott. The same convention that I talked to Dick Giordano with. It's a show called UCAC in London, which used to be held every year. And Scott was an art dealer back then, and he would set up, and I bought a page of John Romita Jr. Spider-Man artwork for him for £4 English.
Wow. What is that in American dollars? Is that like $20 or whatever?
It was like $6.
$6. That's fantastic.
And
wow.
It's a non-costume page. It's just Peter in civilian dress. And I was at the show with like my best childhood friend, and he thought I was absolutely insane for spending £4 on a piece of paper.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, Scott would have such good stuff at those shows. I'm glad he said hi. I haven't seen him for years and years and years.
I've had him on the podcast. He's always fun. He's got a ton of stories, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Dick Giordano again, because I feel like I missed an opportunity. Did you have much time beyond that first meeting working with Dick and talking to him over the years?
No, that was the only time I ever spoke to him.
Oh, wow.
I guess a little addendum. The year before that I spoke to him, I had taken samples to the same convention to get a critique, and I was standing in line to speak to him, and I was looking at the other people in line and looking at their portfolios, and I stepped out of line because I just didn't think I was as good as they were. I knew I wasn't as good as they were, and they weren't getting jobs. That's kind of what I wanted. So I missed the first opportunity I had to speak to him because I just knew I wasn't good enough. But I worked hard and went back the next year, and it worked out. But I spoke to him for maybe 5 minutes, but he was incredibly generous, incredibly patient with this kind of tongue-tied kid. I think I was 19 at the time. And he could not have been sweeter. And as good as his word, he passed my information along to editorial. And I mean, goodness knows what I'd be doing if he hadn't done that.
That's awesome, man. No, you got the ball rolling. That's beautiful. Yeah, Dustin Pizarro has a nice comment and inspires some more conversation. Loved McKone's art since X-Men Unlimited #3. And of course your Titans run, but most especially your Fantastic Four run. Beautiful art. Indeed. You were working with Straczynski back then?
Let's loosely call it working with Straczynski.
Fair enough.
I was, for reasons that I forget, I'd moved to Spain, to the Pyrenees. I was living on I was living on a sheep farm in the Pyrenees.
Jeez.
No internet, no phone. So I had this kind of this basic satellite phone that I'd have to walk up into the first decent sized mountain in the Pyrenees called Pinya Montesa to call Brevoort or Molly, his assistant, to get a script. And then they would send it to Andy Lanning, who was inking me at the time, and Andy would dictate the script to me while I'm sitting on a mountain, my dog are chasing sheep. And to this day, I've got no idea if that book was half written by Andy, because he's a writer himself, and I'm sure he might have done a little editorial.
Interesting. Sure. Yeah.
And he was inking it too. So
wow.
I'm sure those space armadas might have been reduced in number when Andy got his hands on them.
That's very funny, man. Jeez. Again, another really interesting period in the FF, because it was during Civil War and they were all mad at each other and, kind of split up as well. And I always thought that was I always like those kind of fish out of water stories when it isn't just, business as usual with a book. And I appreciated that about that Civil War period.
Well, I had no idea what was going on, because I the only contact I had with the scripts I was getting. So I was like, why is the thing in France? He's
yeah.
This French group of superheroes who are kind of a pastiche on the Justice League. It was a bizarre time.
It almost seems like they lean on you to, or did it just happen where a lot of your work would require designs for new heroes, new villains, new costumes, new variations of costumes, certainly with X-Files?
I'm not sure if they leaned on me. I think I got into the habit of drawing team books, which
sure
no one in their sane mind would volunteer for. I just did so many of them, but I kind of enjoyed them too. You don't get bored.
I'm hip
quite so easily.
That's great, man. Well, and another great team book that you worked on, Avengers Academy with Chris Gage, and created a lot of really cool characters. And it's ironic that you're drawing the Hulk, because I've heard you in other interviews refer to the creation of metal, and I wanted your shorthand of how you describe metal.
I think he's basically the Red Skull who's been in the gym. Not that I want to endorse, that kind of.
But Red Skull.
Yeah, Red Skull or anything he believes.
Well, honestly, in its simplicity, I'm assuming that's kind of what you're just kind of referring to. But God, it's one of my favorite characters, and truly, I think it was the right look, the right color. I mean, whatever. All I know is that I really, it was certainly one of the young wannabe Avengers that I certainly gravitated to right away.
Well, thank you. I think what I certainly wanted to do when I was designing the team is not have this kind of Jackson Pollock-esque color explosion that you see on some teams. So they're pretty much all designed as their costumes have black and one other color. And it just it made it a little trickier to draw, but hopefully a little more a little easier to follow than having. I like everyone. I grew up reading the kind of George Perez Avengers, where it would just be a kind of a mishmash of a rainbow coming at you on the page. But that creates its own problems, because then you've got to make sure that when you're drawing it, that colors aren't touching each other. Characters, who have red on their costume have to be separated, and it's just it's too much work. It's too much work.
But also, I think, again, I think you're beyond the spandex. You always have interesting ideas, and I think of another Avengers Academy member, Vale, and the way that you designed Vale.
Well, that was just a practical solution to her powers. She can turn into a kind of different forms of gases, and that's tricky to draw.
Sure.
I guess it would be easier now. You could pull off some tricks in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
Or the more sophisticated coloring could solve those problems. But having the kind of the linen wraps on spool and to suggest the shape of the gas forms, it just seemed like an obvious solution, and it seemed to work. I'm sorry they killed off most of them. I understand that a lot of them were killed.
They were. That's true. That's very true. I want to point out, as you're drawing and if people are just joining us midway through, they might see the crawl saying that they can go to TDA Art or tdartgallery.com for originals and art purchases, but also this sketch of the Hulk you're working on will also be a giveaway through TD Art with entries for newsletters and subscribing and the convention shoppers. So I definitely wanted to mention that again, and I'm sure I will again before we finish our conversation. But look at that, man! Already, it's clearly becoming the Hulk before our eyes with that great hair. That's how my hair looks when I wake up in the morning. That's exactly how. And I had to grease up to do our conversation today.
Hey, now, I mean that's between you and your maker.
I got to get to the barber before the state locks down on Monday. So,
oh my goodness,
here more. I'm sorry, please, if you had a comment.
Well, I need to go to the barber too, but
there you go.
When we were 3 months into this, I decided to cut my own hair, and it was terrible. So I shaved my head.
Really?
It was the only sensible solution.
Well, it's grown back, so that's good news.
Well, thank you.
Jason Alvarez. Well, I didn't see how you looked, obviously. Jason Alvarez on Facebook says, Mike, love your art and really enjoyed your run on Teen Titans. If given the opportunity, what characters or team would you love to work with on that you haven't had a chance? Would it be a one-shot, a mini-series, or maxi-series? Now, as you said, you're kind of done with interiors. But, God, you've drawn so many of both the pantheons of DC and Marvel. Who's left that you haven't had a chance to work on?
You know, I've never drawn something.
Interesting.
So that might be fun. And there are characters that, I guess you should never say never. So there are characters like Doctor Strange or Silver Surfer who might just be too tempting to say no to.
I hope that happens, man. God, I'm sorry that Mark Waid didn't have a chance to tap you on Doctor Strange with his recent run.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, man. Come on, Wade. What are you doing? Jesus. Wayne Mousseau from Canada. Mike, you've been killing it with your sketches lately.
Well, thank you, Wayne. Wayne's a good guy. I see him at conventions a lot. He's a big art collector too, so we have to keep the Waynes of this world sweet.
Indeed. No, I understand, man. No, he is he's a buddy of mine, and yeah, I'm well aware of his amazing collection. So that's terrific, and I'm glad he's one of your patrons. I think that's wonderful. So regarding the creator-owned book, what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's not a superhero book. It's kind of a fantasy. It's kind of a fairy story, if I had to describe it. It's
Okay.
about a young person who has to finds himself in the position of having to hunt a werewolf and kill it, if possible. So it's called In the Year of the Wolf, and it takes place in kind of a medieval snowscape kind of setting. I'm trying not to tell you too much because it's in flux. I found that even though I wrote a pretty thorough outline for it, as I'm drawing it, things are changing.
Okay.
But so far, it's a story about a young person who is hunting a werewolf.
Wow.
But that might change.
Okay. Well, that's cool. And you're writing and drawing it.
I guess I'm writing it. It feels like I'm just making it up as I go along, which might be the best description for what writing is anyway. But I didn't write a full script. I just plotted it.
Okay.
And when I've finished it, which should be, oh my goodness, it would be great to say this year, but I doubt it. When I finish it, I'll dialogue it, and if I'm happy with the dialogue, that's fine. If I'm not, I'll call on one of my esteemed writer colleagues to come in and make some sense of it.
That's cool. That's excellent, man. Are you and forgive me if I'm putting the cart before the horse, but are you going to crowdfund? Are you going to do it that way? Are you going to pitch it? Are you going to do it through Image? What are you thinking in terms of what you want to do creator own wise?
If I could just do the creative part of the book and have someone else take care of the rest, that would be great.
Sure.
I know my limitations, and one of those limitations ends at crowdfunding. I've got a friend, Jim Calafiore, who I mentioned before.
Yes.
Who is he's crowdfunding his own projects now, and Jim is great at that kind of stuff, that organizational skills that you need to carry through on that. And I'm not sure that I have the patience or the wherewithal to deal with that side of it. So,
understood.
Maybe Image. Maybe I'll pitch it to one of the bigger publishers on the kind of the graphic novel side of things.
Understood.
But I haven't really given it that much thought. It's I'm not very good at multitasking.
Sure, man. Well, no, you're making the donuts. You don't know how to sell them yet. You're still making them.
Yeah, I'm terrible at multitasking. So I'd rather do one thing half-assedly than 6 things half-assedly.
Understood. Absolutely. John Beatty is back with a technical question. He wants to know, as what are you using what you are using nerd person. He wants to ask what brush or pen you're using right now to do the drawing there.
I'm using a Tombow. It's a Japanese pen, and it's got 2 nibs. It's got a gray nib and a black nib. But I only use the black nib. It's waterproof, which is important since I'm going to be throwing a little bit of color on this. And this is basically my go-to convention pen.
Oh,
it's not terribly thin, like the kind of pen I would use for published work.
Sure.
But it's got a really nice, soft, flexible nib that I can make a thin line or a thick line.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't allow you to get too fiddly or too precious with the the line work.
Well, I got to say, man, your quick sketch skills are down because, good Lord, I mean, you've only been working on this thing for about 10 minutes or so, and it looks fantastic. I mean, God, even just from the angle right now. So, when you're ready, we'll reveal. But Erica Vale has an interesting question.
Oh.
Was there ever a poster made of your Star Wars covers?
I don't think so. I'm not privy to what goes on at Lucasfilm. I don't think but I'm not sure. I don't think there is. I did have a kind of a loose plan to attend the Celebration convention and maybe have the covers made into a poster for the show, but that was a pre-pandemic plan.
Understood. Yeah.
The whole world changed.
I understand. Oh, that's funny. John also points out, first of all, he says he hasn't tried out that Japanese pen, but he also likes seeing it. We can see it in the background there, your color wheel. More people need to use it. Interesting.
The color wheel is very important. The color wheel is an invaluable tool, especially if you're like me and your color theory isn't great. It's an invaluable tool to have. I just did a lot of 99, in fact, color busts illustrations, and one of the big problems that I had was what color to make the background.
Sure.
Of the characters, and the easy fix is just to get the color wheel out and see what complementary colors will suit the characters themselves. And it anything that takes thinking out of the equation, I find works best for me.
Understood. Tom Marnock, in fact, mentions these headshots you've been doing lately and showing on Instagram, and he'd love to hear what he uses for those colors and how you get those great backgrounds, and also says the expressions for each character are so perfect.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The colors are a kind of a combination of things. I use watercolors primarily and some dyes. So I use the Daniel Smith watercolors and the Ecoline dyes with. I make my own little mixture.
Okay, sure.
My own little, kind of apothecary style pots, and so I use those two and a little bit of oxgall solution, which helps the paint stay wet. Because I love how vibrant the dyes are, but they dry almost immediately.
Okay.
And the oxgall solution keeps the paints active for a little while, so you can blend a little easier. And the expressions, I just, I probably I use a mirror. Well, I used to use a mirror. Now I just use my iPad. I turn the camera on and I pull faces into that and just kind of draw what I see. So
that's, I was wondering with the heroes that don't have masks, and really even going back to something like one of your early works in Marvel the Punisher and stuff, were there ever actor faces or faces from your life that you wanted to cast as some of these maskless people?
Not really. Sometimes I like recently I did a oh my God, who is it? Adam Strange. I painted an Adam Strange bust.
Cool.
And I was thinking who would have been the best Adam Strange, and I thought maybe Cary Grant. Not Cary Grant. Who's the Gary Cooper?
I can see that. Sure.
Yeah, just that kind of classically handsome profile, and I don't know if it's even the face so much as just the kind of personality that goes along with the face.
That's interesting because he is angular, and also, I mean, and not everyone can wear a fin. Let's be honest, on the top of their head and look good. Put a fin on the Hulk right now and tell me how good he'd look.
Well, you'd have Savage Dragon, wouldn't you?
That's true. Good point. All right, Eric Larson, you didn't hear that. Sorry. But really, I'm looking at the Hulk's face, and you kind of see a kind of skullish sort of, presence in your features. But yeah, that's, again, I mean, it's clearly the Hulk, but it's interesting. Like, your face is certainly different than what Sal Buscema would do, or some of the other greats that have worked on the Hulk over the years. And I know I've heard you say before that clearly Kirby is an influence on you.
Oh, huge influence. I think even more so now than when I started drawing comics. I suspect, like a lot of people of my generation, Kirby was one of the people we saw when we were kids, but kind of dismissed because of flashier artists that came along
Sure.
at the time, like Byrne and George Perez and Michael Golden.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only really been with doing this for a living, I guess, that I've gone back and looked at Kirby and been able to reappreciate what he could do. I don't think comics is always just about simplifying and kind of extracting the maximum power from the minimum amount of lines, but it's one of the disciplines, and very, very few people did that better than Jack Kirby.
And I know.
That's
Go on.
Without considering how creative he was.
Sure.
I just mean in the actual drawings that he produced.
No, understood, and that's one of the reasons why he was able to be so prolific and crank out pages, because no line was wasted, and it really was just what was needed. And man, I love going through the Jack Kirby Tomorrow's magazine and seeing his pencils compared to what Sinnott or some of his great inkers did and everything. It's very interesting, really, really interesting.
Yeah, his pencils are just beautiful in and of themselves.
Absolutely.
They look like they were drawn by a drafting machine. There's like no variation in the tone when he's filling in blacks. It's just incredible stuff. And I'm just... I'm always in awe of Kirby.
Well, and he's the kind of guy that would draw and then leave it and move on to the next page. And I wonder, with your own art, is it hard sometimes to let go of a panel or a page or whatever, or are you disciplined enough to say, okay, it's great, or good enough, let's move on? How how long did it take before you really felt comfortable, or are you comfortable moving on? I know Mignola talks all the time about, I'm getting slower and slower because I want to do more.
I certainly identify with that. I find it very difficult to let go of stuff. Someone said that comic, it might have been Hitch, who said he doesn't finish a page, he just abandons it. That's pretty much how I feel. You abandon it when the editor has given you the deadline.
I get it, man. Absolutely. Although, it's funny. I've been talking to Hitch very much in the last couple of years, and even he said, I think he found a solution to get on with it, and deadlines come much easier to him. And so yeah, whatever epiphany he had, and I mean, again, to the layman, I don't see the difference. I mean, it's Brian Hitch doing his thing. I mean, it looks great,
Well, I did an Avengers graphic novel a few years ago.
I wanted to talk about that, please.
And the deadline was absolutely insane. It was I think 112 or 120 pages, and it was just insane. And I was getting really, really frustrated about being able to maintain the quality, or at least the quality that I'm capable of in the book. And Tom Brevoort, who was editing it, said, everyone who reads this book is probably going to spend like 3 minutes on each page. They're going to spend probably 30 seconds on each panel. So not every single hand you draw or every single background you draw has to be the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel or a pure work of art in and of itself. And I think certainly when you're drawing interiors, it's easy to get obsessed with making everything absolutely perfect, because there are certain artists that we look at, and like Kevin Nolan, who just has this incredible, consistent level of quality in everything he does, and it's probably a mistake to try and apply that on a monthly book.
Sure.
or any kind of lengthy interiors. And when I look back now at the books I loved when I was a kid or a young adult, very few of them would be judged as impeccable works of art. It was really the stories and the kind of visceral energy that the artists will manage to lay down on a page.
Understood. Is the Hulk ready? Are you set, or because I see you picking up the brush back up again?
So these are I don't know if it's fix it. So this
Look at that.
This is
Outstanding.
Been inked, and I've painted the shadows and the undercolor, and now I just have to put on some green. Otherwise, we've just got a blue and white Hulk, which I'm sure at some point there will be a blue Hulk if there hasn't been already.
I was going to say, or you could go gray, and it could be Joe Fixit, of course. So yes.
Yeah, I could do that. I mixed the paints already, and I'm so cheap I don't want to waste this green.
No problem, man. It's all right. I don't mean to art direct. I apologize. That's great, man.
That's okay. That's okay.
Jeez.
This is your show.
Well, and also we want to remind people to go to tdartgallery.com because you can enter to win this very Hulk piece that is being colored as we speak. That's great. Oh, it looks so fantastic, man. That's a beautiful green. That's wonderful. I'm very honestly, no, seriously, it is always when I go to conventions, and I know all the fans feel the same way. It is such a pleasure to watching you guys create in front of us. And it really is like it's a singular performance. I prefer getting commissions rather than pages of art. And I love the pages of art that I've gotten, and I'm sure all the collectors feel the same way. But for me, it's like this is like a solo performance, I mean, it's like, oh, hey, look at that. James Taylor's singing a song for me. This is great, to pick a artist out of my butt. But yeah, I mean, so really, it's always fun watching this. So it's just amazing. So yeah, everybody go to tdartgallery.com and you can sign up for Mike's newsletter and announcements. And he's got original art there and commissions as well. But also, if you sign up and register, you may win this very Hulk piece that Mike is creating before us. Pretty cool.
I'm still shocked.
TDArt.com.
James Taylor.
It's kind of showing my age, man. What can I say? I won't deny it.
Believe me, I have no James Taylor hate whatsoever.
Chris Frederick says, Mike, of the 99 characters you just did watercolor busts for, which character interests you most when considering their backstory or history? By the way, I love your Judge Dredd 2000 AD full color illustration at TD Art. That's cool.
Their back history. Oh my.
So goodness. I guess I mean, essentially, what character? that you drew of those 99 that you really love in particular.
Well, probably the Kirby ones. Probably, I was a Marvel kid.
Okay.
Where I lived when I grew up in England was just Marvel country. You couldn't buy a DC comic for love nor money. They weren't distributed there. So I didn't come to DC Comics until I guess Perez was on Teen Titans, and I'd found a comic book store in Newcastle. So my kind of primal love is for those early Marvel characters. But of all the characters that I drew, I guess I'd have to say I did a David Bowie painting.
Oh wow!
So he was quite a character, I guess.
Yeah, he can. Oh, absolutely. What are you talking about? Ziggy Stardust, for God's sake.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. What kind of what album cover or whatever inspired your Bowie?
Well, I cheated a little bit. I used photo reference from his kind of Let's Dance.
Sure.
Thin White Duke days.
Yes, indeed.
I gave him the Life on Mars haircut.
Oh wow, fun.
The blue suit, which I wanted to do the kind of dire Berlin day.
Oh sure, yeah.
With, him and Eno sitting on the Berlin Wall.
Oh yes, absolutely, man. And recording heroes. My God, the best.
Oh my God,
The best.
stuff.
You're killing me, Mike. Honestly, this is fantastic. I mean, right now you're hitting my high school music taste. So that's fantastic. And they're still with me. So
well, I've been going through them. I've been like every pretentious aging hipster. I've been buying vinyl, and so I've been going back through the Bowie catalog, and just those 3 albums he made in Germany are just. I would never have thought it when I was a teenager, but they're my favorites, I think.
I understand, man. No, I totally get it. And God, all these great Bowie documentaries that have come out in the last couple of years. And, I was working at an album rock station when Black Star came out. And I was so angry that we weren't playing it. Yeah. And the argument was, well, we're a classic rock station. And I'm like, yeah, and it's David Bowie. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And then he died just a couple of weeks after the damn thing was released. And what a pall that month. That not to bring us down, not to bring the broadcast down, but yeah, man. If we could spend a second on Bowie for a minute.
yeah. I know. What a way to curate your own death. I mean,
yeah. No kidding, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Went out doing what he wanted to do and everything. Died with his literally the cowboy parallel. Died with his boots on. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think Black Star is one of his strongest albums.
Totally. Good Lord, yes. I completely agree. Well, we're looking at an incredibly strong, unbelievable commission that the Mike McKone has given up for a giveaway. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I just want to point that out again. That it's okay. Yeah, they're telling me probably go another 2 minutes or actually about just about a minute, Mike. Now that I think of it. I want to see if there were any other questions that we haven't already hit. Chris Bailey did say he was proud that he owns more than a few of your works. A Lobo Splash from Legion, a recreation of Endless Wartime, as we mentioned earlier, and just got your new Werewolf by Night cover. That's awesome. Chris Bailey, everybody.
Well,
pretty cool.
I appreciate it. That's it's nice to hear.
Very cool.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to throw some background. I'll tidy this up once we're.
Oh, dude, yeah, you don't have to rush. It's all right. Honestly, yeah, and exactly, we're getting a good sense of what people could win if they go to tdart.com. Look at that. That's fantastic, Mike. Mike, it has been such a pleasure watching you make this.
Well, thank you.
And truly, I hope you'll come back and do a word balloon podcast. I'm here helping out Bill and Comic Art Live, and we'll be doing it again tomorrow with a couple more panels myself. Mm-hmm. At the top of the hour, we're moving on to more creators. There you are. Absolutely, man. But seriously, well done. And really a true pleasure watching you work and make this happen. But let's set up a new talk soon when you're ready with your creator-owned stuff. Absolutely. But even before that, if you want to hang out and chat.
Sure, absolutely. It's been fun. Thanks for covering up all of the dead air that I provided.
Not at all. Hey, man, you're like I said, man. What are you talking about? I can't draw and handle a conversation. Most of us watching can't do that. You did great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mike McKone, everybody. How about it? That was just outstanding. And go to tdart.com and sign up for Mike's newsletter and all the rest. And maybe you'll have the opportunity to win that lovely Hulk piece.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. It's tdartgallery.com.
Thank you, tdartgallery.com. Thank you very much, all.
Not a problem.
And it's right there on the crawl, right below us. So there we go.
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks, Mike. Sorry for giving you the bad link earlier. I do appreciate it.
No
John.
worries.
Yeah, and John, you're fantastic. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. The next panel starts in just a couple minutes, and again, I appreciate everything. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, man.